In 51 BCE, Egypt stood at a crossroads. The ancient land of the pharaohs had fallen under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal line stretching back to the generals of Alexander the Great. When the aging king Ptolemy XII Alatet died, the throne passed jointly to his 18-year-old daughter, Cleopatra VII, and her 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII. Together, they were crowned co-rulers of a kingdom that was wealthy but increasingly vulnerable to the ambitions of Rome. From the outset, the co-regency was unstable, a powerful faction at court, led by the influential eunuch Pothinus, worked to undermine Cleopatra's authority, maneuvering on behalf of the young Ptolemy XIII. By around 49 BCE, the conflict had escalated beyond politics. Cleopatra was driven from the palace and forced into exile in the eastern desert borderlands near Syria. From there, she began gathering an army, determined to reclaim what was hers. In 48 BCE, Rome's own civil war reached Egyptian shores. Julius Caesar, the dominant power in Rome, was pursuing his rival Pompey across the Mediterranean. Pompey, seeking refuge in Egypt, was instead murdered on the beach by Egyptian agents hoping to win favor with Rome. When Caesar arrived in Alexandria shortly after, he was presented with Pompey's severed head, a grim welcome to a kingdom already on the edge of collapse. Cleopatra faced a serious problem. Caesar held Alexandria, and gaining his support could restore her throne, but entering the city openly was too dangerous with her brother's forces in control. According to ancient accounts, she solved this with audacity. Her trusted servant Apollodorus arranged to have her smuggled inside a large rolled bundle, perhaps a sack or a carpet, which was brought directly to Caesar's quarters. The ruse worked. The two met privately, and an alliance was born. The alliance between Cleopatra and Caesar enraged the court faction backing her brother. Pothinus and Ptolemy XIII mobilized forces against them, and fighting broke out in Alexandria itself, what historians call the Alexandrian War. During the conflict, Caesar ordered ships in the harbor set ablaze to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The fire spread to the docks, and accounts suggest a warehouse or annex connected to Alexandria's famous library may have been damaged in the conflagration. Caesar brought in reinforcements, and in early 47 BCE, the conflict was decided at the Battle of the Nile. Caesar's forces overwhelmed the Egyptian army, and Ptolemy XIII, attempting to flee, drowned in the Nile. The young king's death ended resistance to Cleopatra's rule. She was restored to the throne and, following Egyptian tradition, was paired as co-ruler with her youngest brother Ptolemy XIV, though real power now rested firmly with her alone. With her throne secured and Caesar still in Egypt, Cleopatra gave birth to a son. She named him Ptolemy Caesar, though he came to be known by the nickname Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. Cleopatra declared him the son of Julius Caesar, a claim Caesar himself neither formally confirmed nor denied. Whether or not the lineage was recognized in Rome, the child's symbolic value was immense, linking the Ptolemaic dynasty to the most powerful man in the Roman world. Caesar returned to Rome, and by 46 BCE, Cleopatra followed, traveling to the city as his guest and staying at his private villa on the outskirts. Her presence was a calculated political move, keeping her close to the center of Roman power. But Romans were uneasy. Caesar's dictatorship was already controversial, and a foreign queen at his side deepened resentment among senators who feared he was drifting toward the model of an Eastern monarch. Cleopatra observed the tensions pulling Rome apart. On the 15th of March, 44 BCE, the Ides of March, Julius Caesar was assassinated in the Roman Senate by a group of conspirators who feared the end of the Republic. Stabbed more than 20 times on the floor of the Senate House, he died before he could consolidate his power into something permanent. For Cleopatra, the news was devastating. Her most powerful protector was gone. She gathered Caesarion and departed Rome immediately, returning to Egypt to face an uncertain future alone. Back in Egypt, Cleopatra moved swiftly to consolidate power. Her co-ruler and younger brother Ptolemy XIV conveniently died, likely at her order, removing the last male figure who could be used against her by rival factions. In his place, she elevated her young son Caesarion to co-regent, presenting him publicly as the rightful heir of both the Egyptian and Roman lines. It was a bold dynastic statement and a necessary one, as Rome's new power struggle was already reshaping the world. After Caesar's death, Rome fractured. His avengers, Mark Antony and Octavian, fought the assassins and then each other for supremacy. By 41 BCE, Antony controlled the Eastern Empire and summoned Cleopatra to the city of Tarsus to answer accusations that Egypt had aided his enemies. Cleopatra did not appear as a supplicant. Ancient sources describe her arriving on an elaborately decorated river barge with gilded stern and colorful canopies. The arrival was calculated theater, and it worked. A new alliance was formed. Following the meeting at Tarsus, Antony returned with Cleopatra to Alexandria, where the two spent the winter together. Their partnership was both political and personal, and it laid the foundation for what would become one of history's most consequential alliances. For Cleopatra, Antony represented what Caesar had been, a dominant Roman power broker who could shield Egypt from absorption. For Antony, Egypt offered resources, wealth, and a secure base for his Eastern ambitions. The alliance with Cleopatra did not stop Antony from pursuing political survival in Rome. In 40 BCE, seeking to repair his fractured relationship with Octavian, Antony agreed to marry Octavia, Octavian's own sister. The marriage was a gesture of political unity, sealing a new pact between the two men. For Cleopatra, it was a significant complication, though not, it would prove, a permanent one. Antony's attention would return eastward before long. By 37 BCE, the political truce between Antony and Octavian had frayed. Antony returned to the east and to Cleopatra. He formally acknowledged the twin children she had borne him, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, and recognized a third child, Ptolemy Philadelphus. The reunion was both personal and strategic. Antony needed Egyptian grain and resources for his planned campaigns against Parthia, and Cleopatra leveraged this to secure expanded territories for her kingdom. Their partnership entered a new and more permanent phase. In 34 BCE, Antony staged a massive public ceremony in Alexandria that Rome viewed as a serious provocation, later called the Donations of Alexandria. He seated Cleopatra and their children on golden thrones and announced the distribution of vast territories, Egypt, Cyprus, and large portions of Rome's eastern holdings were proclaimed the domain of Cleopatra and her heirs. Caesarion was declared the legitimate son of Julius Caesar, directly threatening Octavian's own claim as Caesar's political heir. Octavian used the ceremony's details as powerful propaganda across Rome. By 32 BCE, Octavian had prepared his final move. He illegally obtained and published Antony's will, which supposedly confirmed Antony's wish to be buried in Alexandria. Then he made a calculated political decision. Rather than declare war on a Roman citizen like Antony, which would mean another civil war, he directed the Roman Senate to declare war specifically on Cleopatra, the foreign queen of Egypt. It was masterful propaganda. The coming conflict was framed as a defense of Rome against Eastern aggression, not Roman against Roman. The deciding confrontation came at sea, off the promontory of Actium on the western coast of Greece, on the 2nd of September, 31 BCE. The opposing admiral had effectively blockaded and worn down the combined fleet for months before the battle. When Antony and Cleopatra finally attempted a breakout, the engagement turned against them. Cleopatra led her squadron south toward Egypt. Antony abandoned his flagship and followed her. Their remaining fleet, leaderless, was overwhelmed and surrendered. The war was effectively over in a single afternoon. Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, but their situation was hopeless. One by one, their remaining forces in the east defected to Octavian. In August of 30 BCE, Octavian's army reached Alexandria's gates. In the confusion of the final collapse, Antony received a false message that Cleopatra was already dead. Believing he had lost everything, he fell on his sword. He did not die immediately and was carried to where Cleopatra was sheltering, expiring in her presence. It was the end of Rome's most celebrated general. With Antony dead, Octavian moved quickly to secure Cleopatra. He needed her alive for his planned triumph in Rome, a public parade of conquest where captured rulers were displayed before the Roman people. Cleopatra was taken under guard, but treated with a degree of ceremony. She reportedly met with Octavian directly, attempting to negotiate the preservation of her children's futures and some remnant of her kingdom. But Octavian's intentions were transparent. Cleopatra would walk in chains through the streets of Rome. On the 12th of August, 30 BCE, Cleopatra VII died. She was 39 years old. Ancient sources describe her death as being caused by the bite of an asp, a small Egyptian cobra, though the exact method has been debated by historians for centuries. Whatever the means, the intent was unmistakable. Cleopatra chose death over the humiliation of a Roman triumph. Her attendants Charmian and Iris died alongside her, also by their own hands. When Octavian's men entered the chamber, they found all three women dead. Octavian showed no mercy in the aftermath. Caesarion, the young son of Cleopatra who bore the name and legacy of Julius Caesar, was hunted down and executed, eliminating the one figure who could challenge Octavian's claim to Caesar's inheritance. Cleopatra's other children were spared and taken to Rome. On the 1st of August, 30 BCE, Egypt was formally declared a Roman province, a personal possession of Octavian himself. 3,000 years of pharaonic civilization had ended. Cleopatra VII, the last of the Ptolemaic rulers, had become the final chapter of an ancient world. And that's it. Thank you for watching. The next story is waiting for you right here. Subscribe so you're always the first to know. Thanks for being part of this story. See you in the next one.